To have you back. If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers, and we're moving on to the next topic of discussion. So there was this face-off in court that was just last week between the DSS and the Correctional Service about who is going to take Emefiele, because Emefiele turned into like a trophy. They were struggling to find out who is going to take home, and despite the fact that the court had already giving Emefiele bail and some conditions, that is of 20 million naira and some shorties, the DSS still wanted to take Emefiele. You know, it makes one begin to wonder, do they love him so much? Why do they really want to have this man in their custody?
It all boils down to lawlessness. You don't hear this, you see, we always talk about the advanced countries, and some also say we are going to get it right someday. But the way we are going, does it look like we're going to get it right soon? Now, the courts, which is the judiciary, has that right. They've got that right reserved to them, that they can hear, determine issues, disputes, criminal, civil, and whatever. In accordance with that power constitutionally reserved for them, Emefiele was brought before the court. The judge, Justice Nicholas Owebo, granted him bail. The charge that came, surprisingly, wasn't what a lot of Nigerians expected. We had wanted to see the charges that border on his time as a central bank governor, and what so many people did not like about his tenure. But surprisingly, we saw charges that bordered on possession of firearms. So laughable. But then they have the right to prefer charges against him. But the point there is that the moment the bail was granted, the order of court came that if the bail was not going to be perfected same day, that Emefiele was to be transferred to prison custody here in Lagos, Ikoyi prisons. It was specific, and it's an order of court. Surprisingly and most lamentably, the officers of the SSS or DSS, as they want to call themselves, took over the custody of Emefiele after that order from the men of the Nigeria Correctional Service, who ought to take him in and then put him in custody properly. And that was the genesis of the scuffle. It is shameful. It is most shameful for security organizations to be engaged in this. And I want to be specific. This is not an issue where we begin to dance around the topic, that the two organizations should not clash. It's not a clash. The DSS they disobeyed the order of court. Let's call it spade a spade. The order of court is that Emefiele should be remanded in prison custody. Simplicity. It doesn't need an interpreter to get the meaning of that. The Nigeria Correctional Service Establishment Act 2019 gives the Correctional Service the power, the right, and the mandate to deal with inmates, both awaiting trial and convicted, according to the order of a court. And the court gave the order only for these men to hijack Emefiele and coming out of the court. And in the process, a very senior officer of the Correctional Service was manhandled and even driven off to their office. I want to say clearly that we need to begin to, our government, the leadership. Incidentally, the Department of Security Service is directly under the National Security Advisor, which is now Ribadu, the former EFCC chairman, and is directly under the president. And this is where we need as a people to call DSS to order. Such things they paint the country, the regime, the government in bad light. If you have any other thing against Emefiele, you can as well prefer those charges, as long as it is not multiplicity of charges. Besides, Emefiele was with you for about 6 weeks, ostensibly on remand order. Section 296 of the ACJA provides for 14-day intervals within which a court can give order to remand somebody pending the full arraignment in court. This period has passed. 6 weeks, check how many times 14 days into 3, that's what we're talking about. That is 6 weeks. And we have exhausted that and brought him to court. And it's not enough for you. Let him be remanded in prison custody. Bring your witnesses to court on this charge. If along the line you have discovered other things against him, no law says you cannot amend your charge, as long as your witnesses are there. And that is what we lawyers keep saying. The fact that many people never wanted Emefiele because of the hardship his regime as a central bank governor cost Nigerians is beside the point. If we are going to say, yes, let him suffer now because he did this, then we are in one way or the other supporting the abuse of the rule of law. And nobody knows when you throw a stone, as they say, throw a stone into the marketplace, you don't know who is going to get, who is going to strike. Because one day, this same rule of law, you and I will need it for our situation, especially where we feel we are innocent. And lo and behold, because we didn't support the rule of law, that rule of law won't be there that day to avail us. So I want to say that, and of course we heard that after that episode, the DSS also went to a Federal Capital Territory High Court, surreptitiously to obtain an order to further keep him in custody for 14 days. And the court of the Federal Capital Territory, in its wisdom, and kudos to that court, refused that application, ordering them to release him. This is what we're talking about. Let the rule of law prevail. DSS had no business after arraigning Emefiele to continue to lock around the court premises. They desecrated the sanctity of the court. Ordinarily, those men, all of them, from their top line of command, from wherever that order issued from, should be sanctioned. That should be how we can get some sense of sanity into our politics, into our body politic as a nation. And
this is not the first time that court order is flaunted in Nigeria. It perhaps will even be the last one that is going to happen.
And what does that lead to? What is it getting lost in?
Lawlessness.
Lawlessness.
Yeah. So what do we need to do to make sure that things like this do not continuously occur?
You know, the truth is, when you see things like this, like I just said, the NSA, the National Security Advisor, is who oversees this, and the president appoints that as one of his advisors. But that's where we also look at the National Assembly. We talk of the National Assembly. Do you know what many people incidentally, I'm saying it with all sense of seriousness, that so many reps and senators do not even know what is their mandate in that hallowed chamber. It is to stand for the people. You are representing the people in the issues of governance. That is what it is, lawmaking, oversight, then taking of public complaints. And this is one of the things that should quickly be tabled on the floor of that house a day after it happened. And when the house puts pressure, the government will quickly call all those men to sanction them. At least call them to order, and he will not repay. But if we keep going the way we are going, they said the 9th Assembly was a rubber stamp. I don't know what the 10th Assembly will be. It's left for you and I and for the Nigerians to know by the time their tenure comes to an end. But if this way, if it goes on this way and nobody thinks about it, definitely the representation of the people is not being well articulated by them. Because at the end of the day, mark it, the rule of law is what is on trial. Today is Emefiele, tomorrow it will be someone else.
And I feel like is this not about time to really demand for independence of the judiciary? Because the way the judiciary is in Nigeria, we cannot say that it is fully 100% standing on its own. There is still this sort of pull and drag with the other arms of government.
Yes, if you recall, I think in the first term of President Buhari, on one of the occasions he traveled out of the country and handed over the reins of power to the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo. It was that period, I remember, that men of the DSS, I suppose, invaded the National Assembly, if I'm correct, at Abuja, in which I think the mace or so was taken away. That same day, or a day after, I mean, with respect to the former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, he summoned the head of the DSS and fired him. Yes, remember, that was then Mr. Kyari.
Yes.
He was fired by Yemi Osinbajo for that singular act of those men. It's like it's a civilian coup. It's a coup, almost like an overthrow of a government. Going into that hallowed chamber to invading that chamber to cause chaos. The head of DSS was fired. That was one of the reasons they said that when Buhari came back, he didn't want to transfer the reins of government to Shibaju again anytime he left the country. Of course, those were speculations. But what we know is that he didn't do that anymore. But what do you see? It's in response to what you said. That if we can have government work that way, law will take place. Judiciary is on trial, and what happened that day is still a coup of sorts. And the judge will give an order and will say, no, I'm not going to carry out that order.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your view with us on the show. And unfortunately, we've run out of time, and this is where we'll be drawing the curtain. Many thanks for being with us today, Ben Abraham, founder, Zarifat Aid, and a legal practitioner. Many thanks for being with us on the show.
My pleasure, always.
And Comrade Seidu Razak, General Secretary of ANAP. Many thanks for being with us on the show too. We truly appreciate your presence.
Thank you, yes.
All right, and unfortunately, this is where we'll be drawing the curtain close on today's episode of Firecrackers. My name is Ireba Mr. Wako, but please do join us same time, same station next week. You have a wonderful week ahead.